your string one, string program. We are just calculating number of
You are
words.
right.
Yeah, correct. So let me give
In
you
that
presenter
one, the
access.
spaces are.
Okay, let me
Okay.
give you one presenter access, right? So make presenter. Okay,
Mm,
so you can share it now. Yeah.
mm. It's visible? No.
1 second. Let me check it out. Settings and options. No, it's not visible. Yeah, it's visible now. Yeah, correct.
Okay. You're right. For that line, the spaces are coming, but the number of words is coming wrong.
Yeah, that's what I was saying yesterday, right?
Yeah, correct.
So can you just maximize this window? Yeah, okay.
Mm.
Yeah.
One minute.
Okay.
It's not
Can you
coming.
execute it?
Mm.
Now enter test this. Okay, this.
Okay.
Okay, fine. This. Then space. Check the 5 spaces.
It's not coming. I checked it in the
Yeah.
night.
This.
Yeah.
This is a program or something like that. This is the program.
Okay. Okay.
This is test program. Yeah. See,
The
what's
spaces
happening in
are
line.
also. Mm.
So did you try to fix it?
Not tried it, but mm, why it's not counting the spaces? Like only one space it's taking, and all the spaces is counting as words number.
Correct, right? So that's what you logic kept, right? So you're counting each and every space.
Mm.
You are looping them this character array, then you are counting spaces. So here we have to
Mm.
check, right? So number of words in a line, you
Mm.
are counting spaces and okay, you are counting spaces and you are showing it, right? So these are
And it's
correct. Yeah, that is not
mm.
correct. So even before
Mm.
this, I place around 5 to 6 spaces then. It will be more than that.
Then also it's not coming. It's not coming.
Correct? So that's
Only
not
that
correct.
then that's
So
mm.
logic will be a little bit complicated over here because you need to check every
Ah,
condition. Correct?
yeah,
So
okay.
what you can do here
Mm.
is, right? So you need to use further loops also. So first, okay, go
Okay.
back to screen, output screen. I will show you what will be the logic.
Okay,
Go
output
back to
screen.
output
1
screen.
minute.
Yeah. Alt plus F5.
Okay.
Right?
This one?
That's
Oh,
okay. You can use for, I mean, you can maximize the screen if you want.
okay.
Yeah. Okay. So see, when you are entering line, you are
Mm.
saying this is the test, right? So 9 spaces you are entering, and this is counting the word. Number of words are 9, right? So that is not correct. Even I
Mm.
can keep spaces
Correct.
before this, correct? But I can keep spaces
Mm.
after test also, but that might count it or not. I'm
Correct.
not sure, right? So what you can do is just use
Correct.
another for loop, right? Before going inside this loop and counting,
Okay.
right? So use this for loop and just
Okay.
check if initially we have
Mm.
any spaces, correct? That
Okay.
correct? Then what should you need to do is just
Mm.
create a temporary array and just move the corresponding
Okay.
element after removing the spaces to that one. Correct? So that will fix your before the spaces. After the test, I think it will not give any error if you're using spaces, or you can use it, right? Same thing you can use
Okay.
in for front, then you can use it for later part. Initially, you can have spaces
Okay.
before this, or you can have a space after test also. So within for loop, you need to
Correct.
ensure that you are removing all the spaces. Correct? Left and right.
Okay.
Correct. Now you are
Okay.
going inside, then again you need to do the nested loop. Instead you are using a single loop, you need to do a nested loop. So what you need to do is you need to just check when we are encountering the first space. Let's say I'm going from this THIS, then I will get first space, right? So you need to skip the
Mm-hmm.
particular array till you get the next character.
Okay.
You're getting my point? So let's say I'm on this THIS, right? After this, I'm
Mm.
encountering first space. So
Mm.
first space I will consider.
First space.
Now I will skip all the
Mm.
characters till then I will encounter the next character.
Okay. Understood.
You understood? Or shall I repeat?
Uh,
Okay.
understood.
Yeah, right. So I'm
Mm.
going to S, then I'm getting the first space. So first space I will consider. Then
Mm.
I will loop it and I will skip the characters till I will encounter the next character. There is nothing but I. So all this space will get removed,
Okay.
right? Then again we will go
Mm.
further. Then we will check. We will encounter the next. When we are encountering the next space, then again we will loop and skip the next character. And when we are going to T, right, then we will take it.
Hmm.
So that will remove your
Okay.
extra spaces. Now after that, you can count the number of characters with the help of spaces. Will that be good?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So
Understood.
you need to really use the tricky
Before.
part over here, right? So before looping this one,
Uh,
you need to remove the extra spaces on left side and right side. Then again, you need to
and
loop.
then we have to
Right?
calculate the
Yeah,
characters.
correct, right? So you need to use the for loop, no, nested for loop here.
Mm. Okay.
You got it?
Got it.
Okay.
Okay, I'll try it today this Sunday. If
Yeah,
not
try it out.
succeed, then
Good program, right? So you will
I'll.
understand how we are using the
Mm.
loops in real time and everything. So, right? So,
Okay. Okay.
little bit complicated,
Mm.
not that much, right? So I told
Mm.
you what
Mm.
should be the logic. So you can use a nested loop to remove the
Mm.
inner spaces, and before
Mm.
exactly looping anything,
Okay.
you should remove the left and right
Mm.
spaces separately in a for loop.
Mm. Okay.
Got it?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay. Any other assignment? I think I've given you more than 3 or 4, right?
That
Any?
one.
So everything is working
That.
fine. I think yesterday I've seen your
Ah.
2 assignments, right? So that
That's
were
right.
okay. Yeah, that were okay. So any other left apart
Mm.
from that, or we are good to go?
Yesterday we have asked that one BP is equal to BP plus one. That pointed.
Correct, correct, correct. So that you fixed. I mean, already I fixed it, right? I just
No.
want you to check it, how we are doing it.
It will come only if you're using that derived. This one only is coming, but the pointer,
Because I think in last moment when I
base
showed you,
class
right?
pointer.
So I fixed that one, if you remember, right? So we were getting the same address, correct?
Mm. Mm.
Right.
Mm.
Okay, what you can do is just do some R&D, just try to put some C, right? And what exactly is the processing, how we are working, how the address is coming differently, right? So just get, I mean,
Mm. I
yeah, do
tried
some
yesterday.
R&D, yeah. Again, do some R&D
Mm.
because this is a simple concept, right? But you should be able to understand how the things are floating, correct? If
Mm.
still you are not able to understand, then Monday I will
Mm.
explain you. Fine?
Okay. Mm.
Okay. Fine. So let me, I'm just checking my presenter access back. Fine.
Okay. Mm.
Yeah. So let me know once you are able to see my screen. Is it visible?
It's visible.
Okay.
Huh.
So today we are starting with virtual classes. I think it will take only one day because this is a simple topic, very simple topic actually. Right, simple
Okay.
and tricky part.
Mm.
So here I'm defining one class base, correct? And inside this I'm defining one integer
Mm.
I, which is nothing to private to base class, correct? By default is private.
Okay. Mm.
It's in public section I'm defining
Okay.
two variables j and k, and here I'm defining set I and get I. Same example that I took yesterday, right?
Mm-hmm.
Simple
Okay.
base class, right? Now this base class I'm inheriting as private,
Mm.
correct?
Okay.
So when
Private.
I'm inheriting as
Mm.
private, then all the public, private, and protected members will become private to this derived class,
Become private. Huh.
correct? So by default, it will happen.
Mm.
Now, all the public members become private. Now, if I want to access this private variables again in this class, right, then what should I do?
It's not a.
Because this become private, we cannot access directly, correct? So if I want to make it
Mm.
public again, then what can I do? Either I can write the same statement again, integer j comma k,
Mm.
right? Whatever we have, integer j comma k,
Yes.
then set I, then get I. But if I write it again in public section, that will give me error, ambiguous error, right? So because this is
Okay.
private as well as public.
Mm-hmm.
You got my point? What I'm trying to say,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
right?
Got it.
So all these become private when I'm inheriting it as privately, correct?
Private. Mm.
Correct.
Correct.
Now, if I want to access these variable as public, correct? Because these will become by default become private because I'm inheriting as
For
private.
private.
Correct. Now,
Mm.
if I
Mm.
want to access this variable as public, might be some requirement is
Mm.
there. By default, we have inherited as private, but somehow we need a requirement to access these as public. So either I can write it again in public section, correct?
Mm.
So in that case, what it will do, we
Uh,
have in private members also and public also. So when you compile, right, so it will give a compilation error
Public also.
when you're trying to access this particular class with the help of object,
As well.
correct?
Mm. Correct.
So what we can do here is
Uh,
there is one option. I mean, whenever you are facing problem, right, the first thing you should consider is scope resolution operator,
okay.
right? So what I can do is I will just declare public, and here I will say J. I will say this belongs to base class. So inside that it was public, correct, in base class. Correct. So what we are trying to do is, instead of private here, inheriting as private, we are overriding the private values to public over here. That means actually when we are declaring this as private, right? So by default, it should be inherited as private, correct? But we are forcing compiler by writing the statement to inherit it as public.
Okay.
Got it? The next statements override base inheritance as private and restore J set type JKS to public access. Right? So by these statement, we can force compiler to make it as public. So that might be an interview question, right? So if you're hiring, I mean, if you're inheriting a class as private, but some parts you want to make it public to the next class or next derived class, then how will you do it? So simply you can say I can use the scope resolution operator and I can write this inside the public tag, correct? And I will just say that this belongs to base class. Got it? So forcefully we are making this private variable to public inside the derived class. So that is important. How you will make it? So this is the solution.
Okay.
Got it? Any confusion over here?
No confusion.
Right? So you should try this out in test program, right? So it will take hardly 1 or 2 minutes to create. Yeah. This is an important concept. They can ask an interview.
Okay.
Right? So simply I'm doing the same thing. I'm just calling the derived object, right? If I call ob.I is equals to 10, right? So I am not inheriting, correctly. I is private to this class. Only public members I'm changing over here, right? So I'm not just converting I. I'm just converting J, set I, and get I. So if I use directly ob.I, so that will become private. So it will give error because I is private and derived. If I use ob.j20, because J we forcefully made as public. Correct? So here I can directly able to access with the help of derived object. Correct? Similarly, ob.k.30. So k I'm not inheriting. I'm inheriting only J, set I, and get I. Correct? So k will also become a private member to derived class.
Okay.
Correct? Here J and K both variables are there, but I'm declaring only J as public here. So K will be by default will be private. Correct? So it will give the compilation error.
Correct.
Right? Similarly, I can access A or B, set I, whatever variables we have. Right? To understand. So if you are inheriting any class as base class private, so some members, if we want, we can make forcefully as public if we want. So that depends on our requirement. Let's say you have a very large class, right? So inside the large class, there are 20 to 25 members we have. Correct? Now you are inheriting this class as private because that is required. That's according to our requirement. But now you want to access 3 variables directly. Then what you can do? Either you can create 2 classes, then you can inherit it one by one. One you are inheriting as public and one you are inheriting as private. So instead of this solution, the solution can be put directly. The 3 members we can forcefully make as public. Even we are inheriting base class as private.
Okay. Understood.
Got it?
Yeah, got it.
Any confusion?
No confusion.
Simple part, right? Okay. Now this part is over. Now the second part is virtual base classes. These are very easy, I can say. Right? So let me explain what is the issue. So I'm declaring simple class base, and inside that I'm declaring one variable integer I, and I'm changing the access to public. Fine. Similarly, I'm declaring another derived class in which I'm saying public base. So I'm inheriting base class, and inside this I'm declaring integer J. So when I'm saying public base, so it will copy integer I, correct? And it will be same like this, integer I. Correct? So it will copy the variable to here. Correct? When I'm defining it. Correct? Now inside this class, I have 2 variables, integer I, which I'm inheriting from base class, and integer J, which is native to derived class. Fine. Now this is derived one class. Now again I'm defining another class derived two. Same I'm inheriting from base class. Here I'm declaring integer k as its own variable, and integer I will come as by default variable by inheriting. Correct. So now this class also contains I comma j, and this class also contain I comma k. Correct. I they are inheriting from base class, and j they have their own. Similarly k they have their own for derived two class.
Okay.
Correct. Now I'm defining derived 3 class. Now inside the derived 3 class, what I'm trying to do is I'm just inheriting both classes, derived 1 and derived 2. Correct. Okay. Now if you check the derived 1 and derived 2 contents, right? So first one I'm then saying derived 1. So it contains now integer I, and integer j. correct? Now similarly, derived 2 contains integer I and integer k, correct?
Okay.
So when I'm inheriting both classes in derived 3, so what it will do, I will get repeated, correct? So it will inherit I, integer I,
Correct.
integer k, and integer j and integer I, correct? So so I will get repeated in this derived class 3. So when you compile this program with the help, I mean when you are doing or when you are creating any object and try to access I, so it will give compiler error. That which I it will refer from derived 1 or derived 2,
Okay.
right? So what is saying, this means
Oh.
that there are 2 copies of base in derived 3, correct? That means I will get
Right.
repeated integer I variable. So it will be like this: integer I, correct? Then integer j from derived 1. Let me explain you derived 1. This is also from derived 1, correct? Now again I will say integer I, correct? And this is from derived 2, correct? Now I will say integer k. This is from derived 2, correct? So internally we have these 5 variables now as public after inheriting,
Okay.
correct? You got it?
Correct. Got it.
Right? So now I is repeating twice from derived 1 and derived 2, correct?
Derived 2.
So when you are creating any object of the derived 3 class, I'm going inside this main function and I'm creating one object, derived 3 object, correct? I'm saying ob.I is equals to 10. This is a private variable, so I can access directly, correct? So ob.I is equals to 10, I'm assigning. So now the compiler will give error, right? So what it will say, this is ambiguous. Which I it needs to call? From derived 1 or derived 2?
Derived 2.
Correct. So because we have two i's now, just because we in derived class 3, we are inheriting derived 1 and derived 2, which contain these parameters. Correct. So this is an error. This is an error situation where we get error, right? This is ambiguous. Which I needs to, I mean, compiler will call from derived 1 or derived 2. Correct. This one is okay. obj2, sorry, ob.j and ob.k, because we have only single parameters, so there is no confusion.
Correct.
Correct. But when we are talking about I, so this get repeated, right? So that is the reason it will give an compiler error, right? I ambiguous here too, correct? I mean, if I use this statement, right, ob.I plus ob.j plus ob.k, again it will say which I need to call,
Correct.
correct? So what could be the solution? So the first thing should come in your mind when we are getting some ambiguous thing is scope resolution operator, correct? As I told you earlier. So what you can do is, it's the same thing, public base class I'm deriving, then derived 3 I'm using public derived 1, derived 2. Correct. So what you
Okay.
can do is when you are assigning it, right? So just mention this belongs to derived 1 class. Then
Okay.
right? So either you can mention derived 1 or derived 2. So compiler will understand, right? This I they are mentioning is derived 1 class, that this belongs to derived 1 class or this belongs to derived 2 class. Correct? So ambiguity will get resolved. The scope resolve user use derived one's I.
Okay.
Fine.
Okay.
Similarly, when I'm calling this function, I can use here scope resolution operator, then the class
Okay.
name when we are calling it.
Okay.
Right? So this
Okay.
will solve your
One
problem. Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Excuse me. One
Yeah,
more.
yeah, sure. So you understood the concept, right? Right, just to solve the ambiguity, then we can simply say that this particular I, when we are getting an ambiguity, right, that belongs to which class, derived 1 or derived 2. Simply we will say I, then this belongs to either derived 1 class or derived 2. I can use anyone, derived 2 or
Okay.
derived 1. Fine. So this will solve your ambiguity, right? Now if I say here derived 2 and if I'm writing here derived 1, right, so the values will get interchanged, correct? Because both are different classes, correct? So it should be similar throughout the program when you are using it, correct?
Okay.
So still, if you see, there is one problem. What is that problem? Ambiguity is resolved. Program is working fine. Everything is going work smoothly, right? But
Okay.
if you check this one right here, still you can see I am downloading two things, correct? So I will get repeated twice, and
Correct.
we have J and K. So still I am. One second, I'm getting one call. 1 second.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah. Sulakshana. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm back.
Hello. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah. So if you check
Okay.
this class, right? So still we are inheriting two i's, correct? So we have a copy of I, correct?
Hmm.
And we have j and k
Okay.
variables
Correct.
separately. Now I don't want this copies. I mean, I don't want the I copy to be there in derived 3 class. I want a single I only. Then because
Okay.
we are inheriting both i's, right? Still, if somebody looks at code, then there is confusion. And still there's a memory
Correct.
loss, right? Why should I copy the i's twice in this particular derived 3 class? Correct. For this,
Correct.
we have in
Hmm.
solution virtual base class. Right, so this is a
Okay.
simple solution we have
Hmm.
for scope resolution better. Now, better solution is we have virtual
Okay.
classes. The same thing I'm doing. So what I'm trying to do is when I'm saying class base, right? It's when I'm defining the class, it's okay.
Hmm.
But when I'm saying class derived one,
Okay.
then in that case, when I'm inheriting the base class, right, as public. So at the same time, I'm
Hmm.
writing virtual public base class,
Much.
right? So simply I'm
Okay.
adding this keyword virtual, right? So wherever I'm
Hmm.
inheriting, I'm using the same thing. So virtual public
Hmm.
base, and here also I'm using virtual public base, correct?
Okay. Hmm.
So finally, when I'm deriving this class, what it will do, it will take only a single copy when I'm declaring
Hmm.
virtual keyword over here. Understood
Okay.
what is the concept by? So
Hmm.
yesterday I told you, right,
Ah.
virtual class when I'm declaring base class and
Correct.
constructor, right, the same function I'm calling, so it will take
Correct.
only one. So similarly, when I'm
Hmm.
defining
Hmm.
virtual, right, so at the time of downloading, right, so what it will do, it will simply write
Only.
integer I
Hmm.
from derived one, correct?
Okay. Hmm.
Derived one. Then again it will write integer j again from derived one, correct? Now it will say
Hmm.
integer. Again, this first one from derived one, it will get both the values, right? Now when I'm downloading
Hmm.
the, I mean when I'm inheriting the second one derived two, right? So it's actually derived as
Hmm.
virtual class, right? So what it will do, it will check the
Okay.
first value. I mean whatever variables we have,
Okay.
it will check first. So if anything gets repeated, so it will not
Hmm.
copy the second one. So simply it will say integer k. So integer I, it will
Okay.
skip.
Okay. Okay.
You got it,
No. Yeah. Good.
right? So derived one, it will get all the variables
Hmm.
integer I and integer k. But when it's inheriting the derived two class, right? So it will check if any variables get repeated, then it will skip that, right? So j is a different
Okay.
variable, so it will enter the j. Otherwise, integer I, it will skip.
Hmm.
Got the concept?
Okay. Ah. Yeah. Got it.
Any confusion over here?
No confusion.
Okay, right? So it's a simple concept we have, right? Simply what you need to do
Hmm.
is while inheriting, you just need to use this keyword virtual. It will work.
Good. Okay.
Correct?
Hmm.
Any confusion over here?
If instead of
Sorry,
hmm,
come again.
no instead of here when instead of declaring virtual here when we are inheriting,
Hmm.
if we write there only it's virtual like some function and all
Virtual over here, you are
in the
saying?
base class, in the class itself, in the base class itself, if we are
Base class itself means I didn't understand. Here you want to write?
and when okay,
No, no,
understood.
it will
This
not
is
write because see, variables cannot be virtual, right? So classes can be virtual or functions can be
not
virtual.
variables, only
Correct?
functional self
So
function.
while we are inheriting, then we need to define it's a virtual class. That means if already entry exists, so it will skip the
Hmm.
entry. If there's
Hmm.
no already entry
Okay.
exists, then it will just consider all the variables. Correct? That's why I used virtual.
Hmm. Hmm.
There is an important concept
Okay.
that we are going to use it
Understood.
further. Right? You understood it? Just create a
Okay.
test program and use it, right?
Understood.
Yeah. Right. So create one test program and use
Okay.
it, right? So that is important concept. They will ask, so how can we
Hmm.
fix this issue? So first you can say scope resolution
Okay.
operator, then the better solution will be a virtual class or virtual functions.
Virtual function.
Correct?
Okay.
Right? So, yeah. So now
Hmm.
I'm saying virtual functions, right? So what are the virtual functions? So similarly, we have seen virtual classes above, right? So virtual functions similar
Hmm.
according to that, right? So let's say we have one base class and we have a derived class. So inside base class and derived class,
Okay.
we may have the same function name. Let's say I have a function name myfunc. So that is there in base class as well as
Hmm.
derived class. Then a virtual
Yeah.
function, yeah,
Okay.
correct. So let's say I'm declaring base class function as a virtual, correct, and
Hmm.
derived class
Okay.
function is a normal
Hmm.
function. So if we are not defining the base, derived class constructor, then by default it will call the base class function,
Okay.
right? So let me explain you again. So if we
Hmm.
have a base class and derived class and both are using the same function name, correct?
Okay. Hmm.
So in that case,
Hmm.
base class
Yeah.
function will define as virtual, correct? So let's say when we are inheriting in derived class, right? So will get the two function names, correct? Then again there is ambiguity which one it needs to call, correct? Similarly, we have seen in classes integer I variable. So what we need to do is in base class we will write it as a virtual, so that there will not be an ambiguity or compiler error,
Okay.
correct? So that is the
Okay.
concept of virtual functions over here.
Okay.
Right, so same it's defining over here. So base class, we have void vfunc. I'm declaring it as virtual because I'm declaring it as virtual because same thing I'm using in derived class. So if I'm using,
Okay.
if I'm inheriting its base class as public, right? So this is also public, so it will again go inside this one, right? So again we will have two functions. Then at the time of compilation, when an object is calling this particular function, right? Then the compiler will get ambiguous error because we have now these two things, one from base class, one from derived class, and both have the same name. Correct. So just to avoid the ambiguity, we will write as virtual. So if we are not defining anything in derived class, then it will call this function. Otherwise, it will call the derived ones only.
Okay.
Correct. The priority should be given to derived one function. If there is nothing in derived one function or implementation is not there, then only it will call the base function.
Base class function. Okay.
Any confusion over here? Same
No
thing, whatever we are defining in classes, right? Whatever we are doing in it with derived variable. So if we are defining in base class, defining in derived class, then it will give the priority to derived class. If we are not defining in derived class, then it will go to base class.
Okay.
Correct? So similarly, just like a courier guy, right? You and your father are here, but if you are present at home, the courier guy will come and ask for your signature and give the parcel to you. Correct? If you are not at home, then they can give you the parcel to your parents or your father, and they will ask for the signature. So the first priority will be you because it belongs to your name. So similarly, we have object belongs to derived class. If the derived class function is not there, then only it will call the base class function. So that will be a virtual. If you are there, then there is no existence of the base class. Correct? If you are not there, then only the query guy will assign the parcel to your father.
Okay.
You understood?
Understood.
Any confusion?
No confusion.
Okay.
Okay.
Right, so same thing I'm doing here. I'm creating base pointer, derive and derive to. So that you can retire this program, right? So that is pretty much straightforward. So what I'm trying to do here is, so I'm just writing base pointer and one base object. Then I'm writing derive one and derive two classes. Correct? So both are inheriting the same base class and defining the same function. Correct? vfunc and vfunc. This simple program I have taken. Right? So initially what I'm trying to do is I'm just assigning pointer p, base class pointer, the variable, and b, sorry, address of the object of base class, right? So till this point, we don't have any use of derived classes. So what it will do, it will call the base class function vfunc, right? So access base class function. Now pointer to derived one. So in this pointer, base class pointer, I'm assigning the derived pointer address. So what it will do, now it will give the access first to derived class. So it will call the access derived one's v function. If the function is not there, then only it will go to base class and call the base class v function. Right? Correct. The priority should be given to d1. If there is nothing, then only it will go to parent class and it will call the function. Similarly, what we are trying to do, we are assigning the d2 object address to pointer, and we are calling vfunc, right? So first it will consider d2 function, vfunc, then only if it is not there, then only it will go to base. But as we define here d2, right? Sorry, I went up. Sorry. So here, right? So in derived to class, we have this vfunc, right? So it will call this vfunc only, and to print the vfunc value. You got it? So output will like this base v function, then derived v function, then derived to v function.
Okay.
Right? So this is a simple example, correct? So here, if you see, individually, I'm just assigning the address to pointer, right? First one, the base pointer, sorry, base object, we are assigning it to pointer, then I'm calling vfunc, correct? Then d1, I'm assigning it to base pointer and I'm calling the vfunc, and similarly for d2, right? So this is a long syntax. Instead of this, I can write it in short things. So if you can see, the steps are getting repeated, correct? Because first thing I'm assigning object address to p, then it's calling the vfunc, then d1, then it's calling the vfunc, then vfunc, right? So in general, when you're going for practical programming, right? So in practical, what they will try to do is they will try to reuse that particular, reuse any function or some code, right? Either we can write a function so that the function can be reused instead of writing the code again and again. That will make more readability.
Okay. Okay.
So what I can do here is using the same base class as derive to derive 3. Now here what I can do is I will create one function, void f. So f is the function name. In this I am passing the base reference. This is the base is the class, correct?
Yes. Okay.
Correct, and r. So it will accept the address only.
Okay.
You're getting my point? So it will just behave like a base pointer.
Basic.
Base star p. Correct. So what I am trying to do here is, if you check the earlier program, right? Same program, I mean, right? So I'm assigning address of B to P, then I'm calling this V function. Similarly, I'm assigning P1 address to
Yeah,
P,
correct.
then I'm calling this V. So instead of assigning here, what I will try to do is I will just pass this address, correct, in this function.
Okay.
Inside this function, I will do the same step,
Okay.
correct? So that will shorten your step and make code more readable. See, what I'm trying to do is the wait and R will accept the address of object and will simply call this function. Correct? I'm doing the same step. I'm accepting the address as pointer, then I'm calling this vfunc. Correct? So step will get right. So when we are calling with this main function, so instead of passing all these three steps, right, I will write simple step fb, fd1, and fd2. So when I'm saying fb, so it will take the address of b and call this vfunc. Correct? Similarly, when I'm saying fd1, so it will take the address of d1 and call this vfunc. Correct? So now code is more readable. Correct?
Okay.
Right, so this you can use the tricky part. They may not ask or they may ask. I'm not sure right about this, but this is the tricky part you can use, right? So that will make your code more readable and more better. So you understood? Any confusion over here? You can check. So any confusion you have?
No, understood. No confusion. Understood.
Sure, that's the easy part, right? So instead of
Sure.
yeah, right. So now when we are saying virtual functions are hierarchical, right? I think already I explained you what I mean by hierarchical, right? So similarly, we have base class here, now derived class, right? We have same function. Then inside this first one, I'm declaring as virtual, right? Because we are inheriting the class in the another one which have the same function, correct? Now in derived two, correct? So I'm inheriting the public base class, but inside this we don't have a vfunc definition in derived two. Then what it will do when I'm calling it, it will call the base class v function because we don't have definition defined in derived two class.
Okay.
Got it? The same thing that I explained you. So when I'm going to main function, similarly I'm creating base objects. So first one, when I'm assigning p is equals to end of b, so it will call the v function correctly of the base class. Now when I'm saying p is equals to end of d, so we have the derived class v function, so it will call the derived class v function. But when we are talking about derived 2 class, as I showed you, right, so we don't have v function implementation in d2 derived class 2. So what it will do, it will access the virtual class. So it will call the use base class v function. Understood the concept? Then the program output should be first one is base class and derived ones. Then again D2 we don't have the derived class definition, so it will call the base class function only.
Okay, understood.
Got the concept now? Any confusion over here?
Got it. No confusion.
Right, so you are clear about this, correct?
Clear.
Okay. So now we have derived class function reference. Any idea? What can be it about? I mean, when we are saying derived class function reference.
Function reference.
So okay, let me scroll through, right? So you'll get some ideas. Right, so this is our base class. I'm declaring virtual function. Same function I'm declaring derived class. Now derived to class, right? So vfunc I'm not inheriting here. So vfunc not overwritten by derived to. In this case, since derived to is derived from derived one. So instead of deriving from base class, I'm deriving from derived one.
Okay.
Correct? So what it will do here? Any idea? Instead of saying public base in derived two, I'm saying public derived one. So it will call derived one of this vfunc, or it will call the base class vfunc.
Call derived one.
Correct.
Yeah.
What is the reason? See, when I'm saying public
Yeah.
base, right? So what it will do, it will write here virtual void func. Correct? So we have these two things. First one is this
Correct.
one function virtual, and the second one is derived one. Correct?
Void function.
Perfect.
Correct.
Now when I'm saying public derived one, so what it will do, it will again copy the both functions.
Both functions. Correct.
Correct? It will copy the both functions here. Correct? Same function will copy, right? Now the first one is virtual function, second one is real function. So first one will call the real function. Correct? If we are deriving in the derived 3 class
Correct.
also, right? Derived 2 class also. So first the priority should be given to the real function as compared to virtual functions. Correct?
Real.
What it will do, it will call the derived one function only.
Okay.
That was the reason. Your answer was correct. We'll call the derived one function, but what is the reason? This is the reason. Because base class constructor is virtual. So if we have the derived one that is real, so first it will go for real. Correct?
Okay, understood.
You understood the concept, right? If you want, I can give you one practical example of courier again. Okay, right? So let's say some courier guy is coming to your home, right? So it's for your, I mean, the courier is for your husband name, correct? So you are there, I mean, your husband is there, and your grandfather, I mean, your father-in-law is there, correct? The courier will come for your husband first. So he will just check if your husband is present or not, right? So this is actually derived two. If derived two is not there, your husband is not there, like second person, he should contact you because you will understand better as compared to your father-in-law because this is the old age person. So directly the first preference of the person will be you. So you are the derived one class. Your father-in-law will be base class. I understood.
Okay. Understood.
Yeah. Similarly, we are calling that will show the process how it will call. It will call the base class constructor, then derived one, then derived one again.
Derived function.
Correct. This is simple output we have. Alright, so this completes our virtual function. So any confusion over here?
No confusion.
All these programs I want you to copy in test program and practice it, right? So it's very straightforward.
Okay.
You can do some R&D, you can check, right? Whatever you call the queries you have for virtual, you can put virtual anywhere. Just see how it's giving, what is the compilation it's giving, right? So if you have any confusion, you can drop me a mail about that, right?
Okay.
And the next thing is pure virtual functions. So virtual functions we have seen, right? If I'm saying virtual function, when I'm declaring, I'm saying equals to 0, then it's a pure virtual function.
Virtual function.
Okay. Simply what you need to do is you write equals to 0. But there is one limitation. When you are writing equals to 0, right? That means something to compiler, right? Correct?
Correct.
When compiler is giving you flexibility to write equals to 0 in any function at end, so there might be some special thing that they have, right? Why you are writing this equals to 0. Correct? When I'm simply saying equal to 0, so that means it's a pure virtual function. But when I'm writing pure virtual function, that there is some specific reason why we are writing pure virtual function. Right? The reason is, let's say in base class, I'm writing one pure virtual function, and I'm inheriting this base class in another next 3 classes, derived 1, derived 2, derived 3. Right? All the classes, whichever I'm inheriting, right? In whatever class I'm inheriting. So in that case, the implementation of this virtual function is mandatory. You cannot skip the implementation in any of the derived class.
Okay, understood.
You got the concept? So that is foundation. So let's say in your company, your manager is defining one base class, correct? So he wants the guys to process the same process, right? Or he wants something function to be implemented by all the developers, correct?
Okay.
Right. So let's say we have one code, right? So let's say we have some extract functionality in our company, right? That we need the extract functionality in every program, correct? So your manager say I've defined one class base, correct? And inside this, I'm defining one function, pure virtual function. He will define equals to 0. He will not define the definition, right? At the base class. So it's just like it's only a declaration. So we'll just declare that void extract is equals to 0, correct? Now he's saying whenever you're implementing any program in any class, because object-oriented will go by only classes. So whenever you are defining any classes in your program, you should inherit this particular base class. Otherwise, your code will not be accepted.
Okay, understood.
Got my point? So every class, every program should have this particular base class. Now he will define this particular function void extract is equals to 0. That means in every program the extract functionality needs to be copied.
Okay.
That is mandatory item, he will say, because same functionality the client may want in 10 to 15 programs, right? So the sum, I mean, yeah, you understood my point, right? So the same point he will say, this particular function should be implemented by all the derived classes, all the programs, whatever we are implementing by all the developers. Either they can write the same code, or they can write the different code, but the extract functionality should be there.
Good.
You got the point?
Understood.
This is the main function of pure virtual functions, right? So here I have given you example, class number, right? And here I'm declaring virtual void show is equals to 0. That means they need to show the they need to show the values at any cost, but definition should not be defined in base function, base class. Correct? So this is actually what I'm trying to say is all the developers should follow, but manager will not implement this class. They will just instruct. Instruction means he will write only the syntax. So this particular function should be overwritten each and every derived class. So when I'm saying hex type public number, then this is mandatory. Otherwise it will give the compilation error. So I need to define the show here at any cost.
Okay.
Right. So similarly, when you're defining another class deck type, here I'm saying public number, again it's showing the some value. Correct? If you check the third class also, it will do the same thing. So it will just override this value, and whatever they want, they can write inside this function. But this function should be implemented at any cost.
Okay.
Right? That's the concept of pure virtual function. So that is used very frequently in, real world when you are using it in object-oriented language.
Okay.
Right? This is a simple thing I'm calling it, how it will work. The calling will be same. I'm using derived class object and I'm just calling this function, everything. But this is the only restriction when we are using in classes. So it is only syntax that we need to follow. Calling is simple, whatever we are doing, right? I'm just creating objects of class D, H, O, and I'm calling set value show, then set value, then show, set value, then show, then get CH. Correct? You understood the concept?
Yeah, understood.
Any confusion over here?
No confusion.
Okay. So now the next thing is abstract classes, right? Abstract classes means the same thing, right? Abstract classes, one or two functions, right? So just like base class I have shown. So it has pure virtual function. So it contains only definition. It doesn't contain any implementation. Correct? So this actually we called as abstract class. So base class that we have defined just now, it contains only definition. That's I'm saying some function void extract is equals to 0. Right? So it contains only definition, but it doesn't contain any implementation. Even I'm not implementing it outside the class also. Correct? So there's no implementation within the class or outside the class. And these particular classes we call as abstract classes.
Okay, understood.
A class that contains at least one pure virtual function. That means it doesn't contain any definition, even a single. Let's say I have one base class in which I'm defining three functions. So for two functions, I've defined the body, that how it will get implemented. But for one function, I will say just equals to 0. I'm not defining the body and I'm not implementing it. So that particular class can be called as abstract class. That's what he's saying. At least one pure function should be there. At least one pure function. So there might be scenario that 5 functions are implemented, one are not implemented. So that we call as abstract class.
Okay.
You got the point?
Understood.
And second thing, when you're creating any object of, object of this particular virtual class, right? So it might throw an error, or it might not. Will it throw error or not? Because body is not defined, so there are chances, right? Correct. So it will throw error. So we cannot use directly abstract class because there are some functions for which we are not implementing anything. Right, so the class is not exactly complete, but it can be inherited and the function can be overwritten. So that will be okay. Right, so similarly we are doing here, right? We are not creating any object for base class. We are creating object for derived class and it's working fine. Because this class is complete, we have all the implementation. But for abstract class, we don't have some functions implemented. So in that case, object cannot be defined correctly. Right, so that's the concept of abstract classes. You got it? So that is important. They may ask in interview. This is the most important part in polymorphism. Right, and the final one is early and late binding. So this I've kept all the, what is exactly this? I've kept all the description over here, so you should read it, right? So I will just explain you what it will mean.
Okay.
right? So just now we have seen, right, virtual functions. So at the runtime when we are compiling, right, so we have one base class, we have one derived class, correct? So in base class I'm writing the same function name, and derived class also I'm writing the same function name, but I'm keeping the virtual keyword, right, in base class function, right? So when the compiler will compile, right, so at the runtime it will decide either it will call the derived class function or base class function. If we don't have derived class implementation, that will go to the base class. So at the runtime, compiler is deciding, it is checking at the runtime that we have definition or not. We have definition, I mean, we have implementation of function or not. If the implementation is not there, then what it will do, it will call the virtual base class function. All the things are defining at runtime, right? So this because this is the concept of early and late binding, how it will work. So early binding, I will give you simple examples. You remember we are yeah. So in friend function, you remember we are defining one class D, then I'm writing class C1, and I'm writing class C2. So I'm declaring forward declaration. You remember? There's one concept of forward declaration. So yeah, so we have class C1 and class C2. So class C2 is friend of class C1, right? But class C2 is implemented after class C1, right? So in that case, what we need to do, we need to just declare a forward declaration class C2 before we are defining the class C1. So that we call as early binding. Late binding means runtime binding. Just now shown you for virtual functions.
Okay.
Right, so this is the difference. So when you are saying class forward declaration, it will be early binding, and when I'm saying late binding description, that will be a runtime call, just like virtual function. Simple example I'm giving you, right? It can be more. So these are actually examples for how I am explaining it, right? So just read it out, you will understand by this example what is exactly mean by.
Okay.
So you understood by early and late binding? Early means before compilation, late binding means at the time of compilation or runtime.
Runtime.
You understood the concept? Any confusion over here?
No confusion.
Sure?
Sure.
Okay, so I think we are good with virtual function, virtual classes, and this topic's over. So I want you to practice it as much as you can by today. So what you can do is
Okay.
just copy all these programs in test programs and work on it.
Yeah, I'm doing that.
Yeah. I think these are very straightforward programs that I've given you, right? So I don't think so there's any confusion in this, right? Still you are facing any issue, just drop me a mail. I will reply back to your mail.
Okay.
Right? So any confusion over here, you can ask. This is a simple topic, and I think it's important when we are going for interview. They may ask this question: how you can do this thing? What if we have this option, right? So just like ambiguity program, right? So ambiguity, how we can resolve it. So the first option should be virtual, and the second option, if you don't have the virtual thing, that is nothing but a scope resolution operator.
Scope resolution operator. Okay.
You got the concept?
Yeah, got it.
Okay, I think then we are good. So any question you have in your assignments of yesterday?
No.
Okay.